All Tomorrows, Redux, by C. M. Kosemen. A sneak preview. Chapter 5. Apogee. Behold now the apogee of human rule in the solar system. Both Earth and Mars have recovered from the destabilizing aftermath of the interplanetary war. The arts of terraforming and ecology management have been perfected. Venus has grown into a lush, fertile world, its surface covered with townships and research facilities of the Venerians. 2 artificial moons, imported from the asteroid belt, serve as springboards for the exploration of the solar system. Settled entirely by Venerians, Venus is fast growing into the primary nexus of the solar system. Supported by environmental homeostasis, its inhabitants are breaking new ground in the arts, the science of manipulating life, and in philosophical thought. Each Venerian township is an independent state, dedicated to the study of a particular subject, the crafting of a particular artifact, or the culture of a particular kind of organism. Each township is ruled by kings, chosen by random lottery. After their terms expire, Venerian kings head out into the whispering moss forests and live as ascetics. Some who live on that world are no longer content with being Venerians. In lantern-lit townships, sheltered by canopies of pale and scentless giant flowers, they dream to expand outwards. They call themselves the Star People. An entire new world has been settled on the Cronian moon of Titan. It is a far more challenging frontier than the 3 large planets of the habitable belt, and the Star People inhabiting it are markedly different from those living on other worlds. In towns consisting of interlinked, windowless common rooms, these squat and jovial people make music and enjoy each other's company. They have a unique sensibility, and the solar system's finest poets all hail from the Cronian moon. The Jovian moons of Europa and Ganymede, despite being suitable for colonization, were left untouched, as their ice-bound oceans were found to be teeming with life. Colonizing them would have meant ecocide, and no human in this enlightened era would descend to such a callous undertaking. Elsewhere in the solar system, the diatomoid space habitats of the spaces have multiplied and grown in complexity. Now they are difficult to distinguish from actual organisms. The habitats actively colonize virgin asteroids with spores, which grow and unfold in fractal manner around a central blister containing microfusion plants and computing nodes. Once their tendrils encounter rock-trapped ice, water is released. The vast habitable chambers grow, gourd-like, and call out for their spacer hosts. The spaces themselves have specialized further for their unconstrained, void-living existence. Their bodies have been augmented with air jets and pincer-like digit extensions, smooth prosthetic machines that allow them to travel effortlessly through their weightless habitats. Freed from the constraints of gravity, each generation is born with longer limbs, larger heads. Each generation hones the hyper-focused, cold intellects peculiar to their lineage to finer extremes. They spend long periods in still meditation or work, punctuated by dances in the void that bring them joy and refresh their sense of unity. There are a host of unique dances, between lovers and reproductive triads, between family groups, trade guilds, and enthusiasts of particular musical themes, gods, or legends, and vast events involving members of entire habitats. Merrily spinning, the spaces are growing apart from the rest of humanity. Slowly, their senses are probing the final ring of icy planetesimals surrounding the solar system, and they ponder the vast, uncrossable voids between the stars themselves. Chapter 26. The Whistling People. As you once beheld, many worlds of star people attempted to resist the coming of the Kosemen. The rulers of one such world, belonging to one of the most unfairly stratified colony breeder lineages, tried to dig their way to shelter. At grievous cost to themselves and their world, they constructed moon-sized shelters beneath their continental plates. It was an ambitious but futile gamble. As they did on the aforementioned world of the Dracon Stalkers, the larvae of the Kuhanim quickly developed veriform variants and easily seeped into their continental domes. The rising came as it did in all other worlds, then the great dying, and the Kuhanim had their way with the world and their flesh. The shelters became home to entirely novel ecologies, adapted totally to a realm of perpetual darkness, and supported by geothermal taps and the trickle of nutrients from the world outside. After the artificial suns of the shelter builders were snuffed out, surprisingly complex ecologies developed between these scant resources, and unique lineages of chemotropic artificial lifeforms engineered by the Kuhanim. Titanic pale insects, made even stronger by the inclusion of pseudoskeletons in their bodies, competed with horrid, attenuated, echolocating birds and clicking, eyeless rodents in musty jungles of colorless, minaret-like fungi. Almost crocodilian fish, seeing with electricity, patrolled three-dimensional networks of cave rivers and lakes, and vast sightless bats, echolocating with unnerving precision, took their toll on the residents of the cave floor. The ceilings of these Stygian subworlds, so high and broad that atmospheric phenomena often percolated below them, were home to mirror ecologies uniquely adapted for a life spent hanging upside down. They glowed like false heavens with protean constellations of bioluminescent fungi, or herds of light-emitting larvae belonging to rampant post insects that never metamorphosed. Living with them were unique varieties of twist-headed, sucker-limbed geckonoids, unique reptiloids resembling land-dwelling upside-down flatfish, adhesive serpentine lungars and giant centipedes, 1,000 varieties of terrestrial flatworms, flukes, and broad-headed planarians, as well as large-bodied, chain-crawling, interlinked land polyps and shambling stalactite trees, created ex nihilo by the bygone interventions of the Kuhanim. It was a sprawling, wonderful ecology unlike any other on any planet. Occasionally, one of these overhanging animals fell crashing down to the bewilderment of the creatures inhabiting the floor. Perhaps then a hypothetical night-sighted emerger might glimpse the long twin-sensor digits of the whistling people emerging from among the rhizome stalks to investigate. Yes, humans were present here too. These whistling people were more often heard than encountered, as they navigated the darkness with peculiar high-pitched whistles drooping off into the ultrasonic. These pale survivors lived in a realm where sound, smell, and touch, not sight, opened the gates of perception. Fittingly, they had evolved long tactile fingers, enormous whiskers, and greatly expanded mobile ears to sense their surroundings. Where their eyes should have been, there was nothing but a patch of hairless, hauntingly smooth skin. Their perfect adaptation to their dark world had erased one of the most elemental facets of human recognition. Mentally, too, did these whistling people possess adaptations that gave them advantages to live in perpetual darkness. They also placed them in a uniquely advantageous position to re-attain humanity. From infancy onward, the whistling people built resilient mental maps of the spaces they touched, explored, and navigated. What they touched remained permanently in their minds, embedded permanently in scalable, three-dimensional models of their world. The whistling people could also transmit these maps between one another, relying on an eidetic language of extremely rapid clicks and pops that resembled machine syntax more than most natural forms of communication. In the safety of their nests, families huddled close, embraced each other with their attenuated digits, and in purring savant speech completed each other's world maps for that day. In time, these world maps subdivided, and their divisions evolved into glyphs. Glyphs in turn grew into notes and musical words. Songs wove themselves into languages and explored hitherto unknown concepts and notions. Thus, vast new realms of thought and expression, some unimaginable even to their sight-shackled Usufont forebears, opened up before these kind and convivial creatures. They began to probe the limits of their habitats, rightly concluded that they must be artificial in nature, and formulated ideas of external worlds, and those that may live there. Although a few castaways, mystics, and prophets of these whistling people did manage to venture outside their artificial habitats towards the end of that species' reign, this promising lineage never achieved its true potential. Too committed to their specialized lifestyle, they turned inwards, and their nascent civilization vanished after the movement of their world's continental plates collapsed their shelters, one after the other. Despite their tragedy, there was a coda to the story of this species. After the collapse of their shelters, some ravaged survivors managed to eke out a living in the external world. There they grew smaller, and once again lost the graces of intelligence, and regressed into tiny, blind, shrub-dwelling insectivores. This way, their lineage survived for much longer than they did as star people, and as post-human whistling people combined. The bare workings of life held nothing sacred, save for survival itself.